Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Safety and Health magazine booth here at our virtual NSC Safety Congress and Expo. We're glad you're here with us today, and we're glad you can join us for this unique event. And we hope you're staying safe amid the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Barry Botino, and I'm an associate editor with Safety and Health magazine. With me today and visible, thanks to the wonders of Zoom, is my colleague, Alan Ferguson. Our other colleague, Kevin Drewley, who is a familiar face to many of you when it comes to the top 10 every year, is out on assignment today. You might remember our voices from the Safety and Health magazine's On the Safe Side podcast. While this is not a podcast itself today, we wanted to get together with an expert safety voice that we typically used to see once a year on site at our Congress and Expo events. Last week, Patrick Kapust, the Deputy Director of OSHA's Directorate of Enforcement Programs, was part of our exclusive webinar announcing OSHA's top 10 most frequently cited standards for fiscal year 2020. And today he's back to talk with us and answer some of your questions from our safety and health readers that were submitted related to the top 10 announcement last week. If you might have missed that presentation, you can access it on our website. You can just go to safetyandhealthmagazine.com. And Patrick, as always, we thank you for lending your time and expertise, and we welcome you to our virtual NSC Safety Congress and Expo today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed the time that I have to do the top 10 and to answer questions out there that you may have received on the top 10. So looking forward to it. Barry and Alan.
Great. With that, Patrick, we'll get it rolling with our first question. The first question, Patrick, we have for you that was submitted was, has OSHA seen a change in the total number of all violations during the pandemic?
Okay, the number of inspections in FY20 has gone down compared to previous years, and so due to that, the number of violations will also go down. Obviously, if we're not doing as many inspections, we're not going to be able to issue as many violations or find as many hazards that need to be corrected.
So our next submitted question was, were any of the PPE violations COVID related, or was that a separate issue? And I'm guessing when this person was asking about PPE, they were referring to number 9, eye and face protection.
There were, we have cited general personal protective equipment standards in some circumstances that were related to COVID. However, the majority of the related COVID violations fell in respiratory protection.
Patrick, our next question for you is, how much did the pandemic play a part in respiratory protection moving from 5th in 2019 to 3rd in 2020? And I'm curious, were there a number of employers who don't normally deal with the respiratory protection standard and perhaps didn't understand their responsibilities?
Yeah, there was an increase in a need for respirators and employers having a respiratory program for workers not usually having to wear a respirator as a result of their duties, such as in some high to medium risk employers, such as nursing care facilities. But overall, in 2020, the top 5 industries issued respiratory protection violations were automobile body paint, interior repair and maintenance, touchstone and stone product manufacturing, metal coating, engraving, and allied services to manufacturers, masonry contractors, and last but not least, nursing care facilities, skilled nursing facilities.
So you just mentioned nursing care facilities. Was this a new or more frequent venue for these violations?
Yes, while nursing care facilities have always been required to comply with the respiratory protection standard where respirators are used due to the COVID-19 pandemic, nursing care facilities may have experienced increased need and use of respiratory protection where they have been not needed to in the past.
And Patrick, you mentioned violations involving voluntary use of respirators in 1910.134. Is this being applied to only NIOSH respirators, or is this addressing emergency use of FDA-approved KN94s or KN95s within the 1910 standards?
This applies to all respirators.
So for refresher training on powered industrial trucks, what options should employers look to, during the COVID-19 pandemic and with a smaller number of in-person trainings taking place?
Online, virtual reality based or written training could be used during refresher training for powered industrial truck operators. However, evaluation of that performance required by the standard under 1910-178 L4 III cannot be met online by using virtual reality based or written training alone. So when restrictions allow, the employer should evaluate each powered industrial truck operator's performance in the workplace to ensure federal, state, and local guidelines for COVID are being observed.
Patrick, when it comes to safety data sheets, one of our audience members asked if you could define the term readily accessible.
Readily accessible means that there are no barriers to immediate employee access during each work shift. The use of electronic access is acceptable for SDS so long as employees have been trained on how to access the SDSs electronically. Also, alternative methods for accessibility must be available. For example, having printed copies should the electronic means fail.
So fall protection training requirements came in at number 8. So what are some of the key requirements to train employees in fall protection?
Sure, the requirements for fall protection can be found at 1926-503. The employer shall provide a training program for each employee who might be exposed to fall hazards. The program shall enable each employee to recognize the hazards of falling and shall train each employee in the procedures to be followed in order to minimize these hazards. We also have an OSHA publication that's very helpful, and you can get it from our website. It's called Fall Prevention Training Guide, a lesson plan for employers. And can be found at www.osha.gov through our publications page, and it's publication number OSHA 3666.
Patrick, the next question we have for you tends to cause a little confusion with our readers for Safety and Health magazine. And just a quick plug for my colleague, Alan, who has a feature story coming up about competent person. We wanted to ask you from our audience, what is considered to be a competent person?
Okay, OSHA defines a competent person as one who is capable of identifying existing and predictable hazards in the surroundings or working conditions which are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to employees, and who has authorization to take prompt corrective measures to eliminate them. And that's found in our construction standard 1926-32F. And in addition, this we also have a information on. If you go to our website, www.osha.gov/competent-person, and more information available for that.
So another member of our audience wanted to know, when it comes to lockout-tagout inspections, in general, how often is considered quote unquote periodic?
Okay, 1910-147 C6I requires that periodic inspections be performed at least annually based on a 12-month intervals to verify that the procedures are adequate and being properly applied. Energy control procedures used less frequently than once a year based on a 12-month interval need to be inspected only when used.
And Patrick, regarding number 5 on the list, ladders, one of our audience members wants to know, were any of the ladder citations from general industry?
No, those were all construction industry deficiencies in the ladders.
Another audience member wanted to know if they could find the OSHA top 10 by NAICS code, and if so, where?
Sure. The top 10 by NAICS code can be found on OSHA's webpage at OSHA.gov. If you go to the A to Z index page down to frequently cited OSHA standards and follow the link, you can enter a NAICS code and also enter an employee. You can say all employer populations, or you can enter it by number of employees in that industry. And it'll come up with a list similar to this.
Our next question for you, Patrick, is in regards to number 4 on the list, scaffolding. And one of our audience members asked if you could elaborate on something you mentioned about employees still needing to be protected from falls, and could you give some examples?
Yes, requirements for fall protection specific to scaffolding are located in 29 CFR 1926 451G. Paragraphs G1I through Roman 7 establish the types of fall protection to be provided to the employees on each type of scaffold. Paragraph G2 addresses fall protection for scaffold erectors and dismantlers. Paragraph G3, in addition to meeting the requirements of 502D, addresses personal fall arrest systems used on scaffolds. Paragraph G4 addresses the use of guardrails systems installed on scaffolds. Please note that the fall protection requirements for employers installing suspension scaffolds, support systems on floors, roofs, and other elevated surfaces are set forth in 29 CFR 1926 subpart M. And in addition, if on our website, if you go to our e-tools, there's an e-tool on scaffolding that can help you with, that can provide you with some information there as well.
I know you've been doing this for a while, and I think someone wanted to test your knowledge with this question. Which new standards have appeared in the top 10 over the last few years and which have exited? And we don't have any rights to any theme music, so I don't know if we can play that here.
I mean, the most significant change in the past 4 fiscal years is that electrical wiring methods 1910-305 is no longer in the top 10. It was replaced by 1926-102 eye and face protection and construction. Also, respiratory protection rose to number 3 on this year because of the frequently cited standard in relation to the COVID cases.
Well, thank you once again, Patrick, for being here today. We always appreciate you being so generous with your time and expertise. And before we close today's Q&A, just a reminder to viewers to stay tuned for more exclusive in-depth coverage of the OSHA Top 10 in the April issue of Safety and Health magazine, as well as online at safetyandhealthmagazine.com. Thank you all for watching, and we hope you have a safe day.
Take care.